All right, here's another video on how to use Microsoft Excel to create a spreadsheet graph, a scatter plot. In this case, we're going to be creating a graph of a cooling curve for a chemical called BHT. This is using Excel from the Office 365 suite. The later versions of Excel should be very similar to this. You have access, by the way, if you're a Winnipeg School Division student, you have access where you can download and install on your home computer the full version of Microsoft Office. So you'd have this program on your computer, whether you have a Windows computer or a Mac computer, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in learning how to do that, you can let me know and I can tell you how to do that at school. So I've got here a spreadsheet already open in Microsoft Excel. I've entered a bunch of temperatures from an experiment that I did. I did a cooling curve experiment for BHT. I had a test tube of hot melted BHT, and I put it in a hot water bath, and I let the two things cool down while I recorded the temperature of both every 30 seconds or every half minute. The first column here, this is column A, has my times in it. Column B is going to have the temperature of the water, and column C has the temperature of the BHT. Just a quick note about spreadsheets. Each of these little rectangles on the spreadsheet is called a cell. So right now the number 75.8, the first temperature of the water, we would say it's in cell B3 because it's in column B and row number 3. The number 1 minute, is in column A and it's in row 5, so that cell is A5. Just a quick little refresher on spreadsheets if you needed that. So let's put some labels in here. This first column, these are my times in minutes. And I'll make the font a little bit bigger so you can see that more clearly on the video. If you want to make the column a bit wider, you put your mouse in between the letters A and B up above on the columns, and you can click and drag it bigger, or you should be able to just double click in between there, and it will automatically widen it to fit whatever was in the column. The next one is going to be my water temperature, and I want to put degrees Celsius. I could choose to insert a symbol at the end there, and then find a degree symbol. But I've already got a website open. The website is called symbolsalad.com. And on symbolsalad.com, it has a whole bunch of special symbols, characters that are used in math and science. Here's a degree symbol. You just click on it, and now it's been copied to the clipboard on your computer. So go back to Excel and now press Control V, and it'll paste it, the degree symbol. So degrees Celsius, enter. And again, we can put our cursor between the letters B and C on the columns and double click. It'll widen perfectly. And then finally, we have the BHT temperature. We still have that degree symbol, so Control V, degrees Celsius. And if we double click one more time, that should widen perfectly there. So there's my data entered, the temperatures of the water and the BHT. I've only entered the first 3 times because the times are going up by a very regular pattern. They're going up by half a minute each. So we can do something quick in the spreadsheet. If you have numbers that are increasing in a regular pattern like that, you just highlight 2 of them or 3 of them. So now Microsoft Excel sees what pattern you have going up by half a minute. And then you can put your mouse over the little tiny square in the bottom right-hand corner of what you highlighted. The cursor turns to a black plus symbol. Click and drag that down. And what will happen is Excel will just fill in all of those times following the same pattern. Now you'll notice that the times here, some of them have a decimal, some don't. And some of my temperatures have a decimal and some don't. 75 should really be 75.0, shouldn't it? If we think about significant digits, that's important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of the numbers on my sheet, highlight all of them. And then there's a couple of ways to do this, but one way is right here on the home menu. There's a number section, and then you can increase the decimal or decrease the decimal. Let's try increasing. So just click to increase. That gave me 2 decimal places for everything. If I decrease, now everything has 1 decimal place, and that looks good. So my numbers that were 75, it's now 75.0. In my times, which were 1, now they say 1.0. So that's nice. So let's go ahead and make our scatter plot. Highlight all of the labels and the numbers that we've entered. And let's go up to the menu at the top. We want to insert, and there's a section called charts. One of the charts is called a scatter plot. Insert scatter x comma y. That's the one we want. Do not choose to insert a line graph. That's not the graph we want. The scatter plot will graph the temperatures on a y-axis, a vertical axis, and it'll graph the time, which was in the first column of my data, on the x-axis. Whatever is in the first column is automatically put on the x-axis of your graph. So I'm going to click the little drop-down menu, and now of these different types, I'll choose the one that has a smooth curve with the points visible. So this is the one I like. Now, when I do that, the chart is automatically shown here as something inside the larger spreadsheet that I was in. If I don't want that, I can choose to up here on the right-hand side to move the chart. If I move it, I can say move it and make it its own sheet. So I click New Sheet and press OK. And now the graph is on its own. The bottom of the screen now says Sheet 1. If I click that, there's my data. And beside it, it says Chart 1. If I click that, there's the graph. Okay, so let's stay here on a full screen graph, and let's play with some of the elements of the chart. So when you click on the chart tools up above are now visible. You can go to the left and you can see Add Chart Elements. Click there. We want to add some different things. Let's add an axis title, a primary horizontal title. It automatically put it at the bottom. I can either go there to type, or I can just type in this bar up here. The x-axis is time in minutes, and press enter. And now my x-axis down at the bottom says time minutes. It's a little hard for you to see that. It's highlighted, so I'll go back to the home menu and I can just increase the font so it becomes more visible. So there you can see now in the video, it says time in minutes. Okay, let's go back to chart tools and we'll add another chart element. Let's put an axis title on the vertical or the y-axis. And right now it's highlighted, so I can just type in this menu bar. This is the temperature. And I think I still have the degree symbol, Control V, yes I do. And there's the temperature in degrees Celsius, press enter, and now it's there. I made the bottom font size bigger. Let's make this size bigger also, so you can see, but also so that they are the same size. If you click on the axis itself, so I've just clicked on the y-axis and the numbers are all highlighted, you could increase their fonts very simply like this also to make them a different size, and the same thing on the x-axis. You can click and you can make them bigger, more visible as well. Okay, so I made those 14 point, I'll make those 14 point. The title, we can click on the word, on the chart title, and in the little menu bar here, we can type a new title. So this is a cooling curve for BHT, and press enter. Since the title is the main identifying feature of the chart, we should really make its font size large and prominent. And we can click and we can drag the chart title and place it in different points. You can play with it. You can also make it, you can fill it, you can put a filling behind it. I can make it a white background. There you go. All right, now the y-axis, notice it starts at 0 degrees Celsius and goes up to 90. Let's change that. So you can click on that axis, right click on the axis, and go down to where it says format the axis. Right, so I clicked on the y-axis and then I chose format the axis. I don't want it to start at 0, so I'm going to change the minimum value from 0 to 50, since that was below, just slightly below my lowest temperature. The maximum automatically changed to 80, otherwise I would have changed that myself. The major units, if you look at the y-axis, they're now going up by 5 degrees. That's what the major unit does. If I change that to 10 degrees, for example, now they're going to go from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80. Let's go back to 5 degrees. All right. The minor unit right now is set to 1 degree, so it's not important because it's not visible here. But if we were to add grid lines on there, let's do that. I'm going to right click again on the y-axis. I can add minor grid lines. The minor grid lines, a little hard to see in the video, but now there's little lines running across in between the major grid lines. Because the minor scale is 1, each of those little lines going across is 1 degree. So 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. If you need to read the graph accurately, those are nice to put in. Let's do the same thing on the x-axis. We can click to highlight the x-axis, right-click and format the axis. And now you could change the minimum, you could change the maximum, you could change how much the units go up by. Maybe you don't want them to go up by 2, maybe you want them to go up by 1. Right? No, I prefer 2. So let's go back to 2. The minor scale, I'll change it to 0.5, or maybe I'll change it to 1 minute. All right, and let's add some minor grid lines. So let's right click again on that x-axis. Whoops, right click on the right, there we are. Right click and add minor grid lines. And now there are little lines running up at 1 minute intervals. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's nice. So they're going at 1 minute intervals because we chose, when we formatted the axis, we chose the minor scale to be 1, all right? You can play with things like the tick marks. Do you want little tick marks going across the axis? But I'm comfortable with this. This graph looks very nice the way it is. We can also insert, can I insert here? No, let's just leave it like this. So here's a nice looking graph. Let's now put this into our lab report. So there's a couple things you can do. What I'll do is I'll choose the snipping tool. So I'm going to go to my, every Windows computer has this. So I'm going to click on my programs and I'll choose the snipping tool. Just do a search for snipping tool. There it is. And now what I'll do is I can click on, I want to make something new. I go over and I just click. I'm going to drag a little rectangle around my graph. There it is, very nice. And now I can copy it, or I could save it. I could save this as an image to my computer. But I'm going to copy it. I'll go to my lab report. Here's my lab report in Microsoft Word or maybe Google Docs, and I can paste my graph into the lab report. Now that it's in my lab report, I could also add things to it. I could add little text boxes to it. We're now in Microsoft Word, right? So I can insert a text box. I can put a text box telling me what the freezing point is. We can insert little shapes. We can draw an arrow, for example, along the plateau. We can draw an arrow showing that the freezing point is at 69 degrees Celsius according to this data. We can insert a little text box right here to say freezing point is 69 degrees. So there you have it. I've used Microsoft Excel, the full version of Excel, to create the graph. I could now save this also on my computer. If I want to go back and edit it later, it's easy to do. So the full version of Excel works very similar to the online version, but it has a lot more features to it. But for grade 9 science or even high school, the extra features in the full version are really not that important. So either the online version or the full version are sufficient to make a graph.